The building of the American empire was done through the method of American imperialism. This can be seen from the time of the late 1800s to the 1900s. So, what is imperialism? American imperialism is a term that refers to the economic, military, and cultural influence of the United States internationally. Building the American empire is based on the principles of expansion and power. The late 19th century was known as the Age of Imperialism, a time when the United States and other major world powers rapidly expanded their territorial possessions. First popularized during the presidency of James K. Polk, the concept of an American empire was made a reality through the later half of the 1800s. This caused American businessmen to seek new international markets in which to sell their goods. Also, the influence of social Darwinism increasing led to the belief that the United States was inherently responsible for bringing concepts such as industry, democracy, and Christianity to less developed, savage societies. The combination of these attitudes and other factors led to the United States towards imperialism. Now, this political cartoon right here, called 10,000 Miles from Tip to Tip, refers to the extension of the U.S. domination, which is symbolized by a bald eagle, from Puerto Rico to the Philippines. Before diving further into the act of U.S. imperialism, it brings to question whether America was responsible for the terrorism against the peoples of Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Panama, or other regions U.S. seemed to imperialize. Now, during this age of imperialism, the United States exerted political, social, and economic control over countries such as the Philippines, Cuba, Germany, Austria, Korea, and Japan. One of the most notable examples of American imperialism was the annexation of Hawaii in 1898, which allowed the United States to gain possession and control of all ports, buildings, and public property that had formerly belonged to the government of Hawaiian Islands. This action eventually resulted in Hawaii's becoming America's 50th state in 1959. Now, the political cartoon right here called Uncle Sam Teaching the World captured the idea that Uncle Sam is lecturing four children labeled Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. In front of the children, they're holding books labeled with various U.S. states. In the background, an American Indian holds a book upside down. A Chinese boy stands at the door, and a black boy cleans the window. The blackboard reads, "The consent of the governed is a good thing in theory, but very rare in fact. The U.S. must govern its new territories with or without their consent until they can simply govern themselves." There was also a lot of opposition when it came to imperialism. The Anti-Imperialist League was established in 1898 because of the opposition of America's attempt to gain the Philippine Islands. They also wanted to battle the American annexation of the Philippines as an insular area. The League also argued that the Spanish-American War was a war of imperialism simply camouflaged as a war of liberation. The Spanish-American War was a conflict in 1898 between Spain and the United States. It was the result of American intervention in an ongoing Cuban War of Independence. American attacks on the Spain's Pacific possessions led to the U.S. involvement in the Philippine Revolution and ultimately to the Philippine-American War. The war marked America's entry into world affairs. Before the Spanish-American War, the United States was characterized by isolism. This is an approach to foreign policy that asserts that a nation's interests are best served by keeping the affairs of other countries at a distance. Since the Spanish-American War, the United States has had significant hand in various conflicts around the world and has entered many treaties and agreements. Now, speaking of the Philippine-American War, that was part of a series of conflicts in the Philippines' struggle for independence, preceded by the Philippine Revolution in 1896 and the Spanish-American War. The conflict arose from the struggle of the First Philippine Republic to gain independence following annexation by the United States. The United States officially took control of the Philippines in 1902. In 1916, the United States promised some limited self-government, which was established in 1935. World War II, the United States gave the territory independence through treaty. The war resulted in an estimated of 34,000 to 220,000 Philippine casualties dying from disease and hunger, which was brought on by the war. It also resulted in the disestablishment of the Roman Catholic Church and the introduction of the English language in the islands as a primary language of government. Now, the Banana Wars, which are also known as the American Caribbean Wars, were a series of conflicts and military interventions in Latin America and the Caribbean caused or influenced by the United States to protect its commercial interests. Panama, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic were all venues of conflict. This period of conflict started with the Spanish-American War in 1898 and the Treaty of Paris, which gave the United States control of Cuba and Puerto Rico. This series of conflicts ended with the withdrawal of troops in Haiti in 1934 under President FDR. Reasons for these conflicts were varied but were largely economic in nature. Additionally, the United Fruit Company had significant financial stakes in the production of bananas, tobacco, sugarcane, etc. throughout the Caribbean, Central America, and North and South America. The United States also was advancing its political interests, maintaining a sphere of influence in controlling the Panama Canal, which it had recently built and which was critically important to global trade and naval power. Now, speaking of Panama and the canal, in 1882, Fernandez started work on the canal, but at 1889, the effort had experienced engineering challenges caused by frequent landslides and other natural disasters, which resulted in bankruptcy. U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt convinced Congress to take on the abandoned works in 1902, while Colombia was in the midst of their Thousand-Day War. During the war, Panamanian liberals made at least 3 attempts to seize control of the Panama and potentially achieve full autonomy. The Roosevelt administration proposed to Colombia that the United States should control the canal, but by mid-1903, the Colombian government refused. The United States then changed their tactics. The treaty allowed for the construction of a canal and U.S. sovereignty over a strip of land. Now, overall, these are just some major events that were prominent during America's age of imperialism, and at just a small glance, it is obvious that, yes, the government is guilty of terrorism against the peoples of Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Panama, or other regions because of the methods they enlisted in order to imperialize territories around the world. They went to any lengths possible, including causing the start of several wars.